All right, everybody, welcome back to Draft Prospect Analysis. And we've got a big challenge coming up because this is going to take a while. Straight up, this is one of the best receiver classes I have ever seen in any draft. This may be the greatest wide receiver draft. I don't want to say NFL history because that would require a level of deep diving analysis that I don't have, but it's got to be on the list. This is about as good as it gets. There are as many as 7 guys that could go in the first round, including, I would say, 4 guys that are guaranteed to go in the first round. There are countless day 2 options, and there's depth. This is the position for the 2024 draft. So it's going to take a while to get through all this. And I know that some of you might be thinking, well, we're Seahawks fans. Who cares about the receivers in this draft? We're not going to draft a receiver. Well, I like to explore every option, even the ones that seem very, very unlikely. So we're going to talk about receivers in this class. We're going to try to dig in and understand what makes this class so good. And look, I agree. We shouldn't be drafting receivers in this draft. We don't need it. We wouldn't get too much value out of it, and it wouldn't make sense. But at the same time, I can look at it and go, hey, this is almost certainly Tyler Lockett's final year in Seattle. Maybe his final year in the NFL, but I can't imagine him being back next year anymore. And DK Metcalf, while he's relatively untradeable right now, he becomes eminently tradable next offseason. So it could be DK's last year in Seattle too. Who knows? So I don't want to dismiss anything, right? Like, we don't want to go into 2025 with our only good receiver being JSN and whatever Jake Bobo turns into. So I don't want to be completely dismissive of any scenario. So yes, I'm going to talk about these receivers. We're going to start at the top, going to work our way down, and it's probably going to take 3 or 4 days to get through everything. And we're also going to do a stream with the Hawks Nest tomorrow night where we talk about receivers in this draft. But just understand that just because I'm talking about this doesn't mean that I think the Seahawks should go out and do something drastic so they can participate. Even though I will admit there is a little part of me that goes, it's kind of too bad our receiver spot is so good, right? You know, DK, Lockett, JSN, Bobo. Now you've got Chenault in town. You've got Derek Young. You've got Eskridge. You've got a couple other guys as well that might be kind of interesting. There's layers on layers of things that are good, but it is what it is. So, let's open the conversation with the star of the show, the consensus #1 receiver in this class, Marvin Harrison Jr. And no, he's not just a famous last name. Actually, he's got a famous first name too, because his whole name is the same as his father, the great Marvin Harrison, one of the greatest receivers in NFL history. Maybe top 10, certainly top 15. Yeah, he's not just that. He's legitimately that good. And I don't know if Marvin Harrison Jr. is generational. I'm starting to back off of that moniker a little bit with him. But it has been almost 20 years since I've seen a receiver prospect this good. Ohio State, going to be 22 when the season starts. He's got the size. 6'3", 209 pounds. He's big. 31 and 7/8 inch arms, 9.5 inch hands. Every big board of major note has him in the top 2, and then the database has him 4th. And the database has him 4th because they go 1, 2, 3 with quarterbacks. I think because they're also taking data from mocks. But either way, he's clearly a top 5 guy in this draft. And if not for the fact that there's probably going to be a run on quarterbacks to start the draft, we are probably looking at a scenario here where he deserves to be in that top 3. It won't happen, I don't think, because of need, but he probably should be there. Elite production the last 2 years for Ohio State. 77 catches, 67 catches, 2,500 receiving yards, 28 total touchdowns, PFF grades at 90, 2 straight seasons, very rare you see that. Was a little bit of a problem with drops in 2023. He averaged 1 drop every 2 games. Not great. We don't love that. We don't like drops, but Still phenomenal player. Boosted his yards per catch significantly in 2023. So what makes Marvin Harrison Jr. special? Mostly it's the route running. He is a savant at running routes. He can run all kinds of different routes. He has a great understanding of how to use his chop steps to mislead defenders. He's really good at shifting gears. And what I mean by that is he will vary his speed throughout the rep so that the defender has a really hard time knowing what's coming next. Like when you're constantly shifting back and forth between top speed, jogging, running, sprinting, top speed, jogging throughout the game as a defender, it's really hard to know what to expect. Because not only is he varying up his routes, he's varying up the way in which he runs those routes. So really, really hard to keep up with him just because of that. So it's the route running that makes him great. His ball skills are fantastic. If the ball is anywhere in his vicinity, he's going to make a play on it. He hauls in pretty much everything that comes his way. If he's in range of being able to get his hands on it, he's getting his hands on it. He plays the ball in the air really well. He's also really good off script. When the play kind of goes south and the quarterback's scrambling around trying to find something, he's really good at breaking off his route and going to help his quarterback. He's a good deep threat. He doesn't have burner speed, but he's good deep. If you send him on those go routes, he'll find a way to make a play on the ball down the field. NFL bloodlines speak for themselves. I mean, his father's literally one of the greatest receivers of all time. Also really good making catches in traffic. Really good at bringing in the ball when there's contact and there's defenders around him. So he's bringing a ton to the table here. Now, the drops in 2023 are not great, but that's not what has caused me to cool off just a little bit on the hyperbole here. He doesn't have top-end speed, which doesn't affect his game that much, but when you're talking about somebody being generational, you probably want them to be good at everything, right? Like Calvin Johnson is generational because he had massive size, big-time speed, great acceleration, he was physical. Like, he basically had everything. I don't think Marvin Harrison Jr. quite has everything. He's also somebody who can get pushed around a little bit by more physical coverage. Like, whenever he has to deal with press coverage at the line, he can get bullied a little bit. So, I look at those things that Harrison's bringing, and I say his main asset is route running. But as a physical specimen, while he is really good, I don't think that this package is quite generational. I'm pulling the reins back a little bit on that one. So, his ability to deal with a more physical press coverage is hopefully something that comes to him over time. Unless he goes to the Cardinals, then of course I hope it doesn't, because then at that point he'd be almost unstoppable. And I just think his bag of tools is not quite what I would look for to call a prospect generational. Like, again, if Calvin Johnson is the gold standard, then I can't say Marvin Harrison's on that level. However, I can't think of a receiver prospect better than Marvin Harrison Jr. since Calvin Johnson. So he's got that going for him, right? There's something to be said for that. So I did back off a little bit on that, but his size, his route running, and his ball skills. And the ball skills are big, right? Like, we talk about receivers in the draft. We talk about speed, acceleration. We talk about hands. We talk about route running. We talk about all these things. It's ball skills that really get it done at the end of the day. And he's got ball skills for days. I think he's the best receiver prospect since Calvin. And he's a slam dunk top 5 selection. If he doesn't go in the top 5, something ain't right. And if it weren't for the fact that all the teams at the top need a quarterback so badly, I would say that he should probably be going in the top 3 and maybe even top 2. I kind of like him better than any non-Caleb quarterback as a pure prospect. Now, I understand that positional value matters, but Marvin Harrison Jr. is a rare find. So, whoever gets him, have fun with that. I'm backing off the Calvin Johnson comparison. I don't think he's as good as that, but you stack him up against pretty much any other receiver in NFL history as a prospect, and he's going to make a case. Imperfect, but perfection's very rare. All right, that's for Marvin Harrison Jr. We're just going to get things started off with that. I'll see you guys later. We're going to look at some more receivers in a little bit here. So stay tuned. We're going to do all the due diligence here and really understand what this class has to bring. See you guys later. Go Hawks. That's Marvin Harrison Jr. for you.